Three, two, one. Welcome back to Defluenced. Episode 3. We promised to talk about Hive, but we're going to change some things up on you. We're going to talk about decentralization and why it's important. Roll that really cool intro.
Yeah, we think, decentralization, since decentralization is such a big part of Hive, we figured we'd talk about that first. That way we can lay the groundwork for our discussion on Hive, and that just made sense to us. So,
It makes so much more sense. I think I was sitting there getting ready this morning. I'm drinking my coffee, and I'm like, we should probably lay some groundwork first before we start talking about all these platforms.
well, that's always good. If you're going to build a house, you got to build the foundation, right? You can't just start on the walls and the ceilings and all that kind of stuff. You got to lay the foundation first, and then build the rest of the house on top of that.
Absolutely. That's the best. I don't know. I guess I don't know what the word was I was trying to think of because I'm a bonehead. But we got some news that we should probably talk about.
Yeah, we had some pretty interesting developments last week, and I think it'd be kind of cool to talk about those. We'll talk about. I think we'll start with the lesser news, the less impactful news, and move up to the most impactful. So, first, Coinbase launched a pro-crypto politician identifier tool, and earlier they had said we're not going to talk about politics, and they didn't want people talking about politics on their platform. Now they're launching this pro-crypto politician identifier to let people know who's running for office that is pro-crypto. What do you think? Do you think that's a good idea? Do you think it's a bad idea? Do you support that, or?
But which one was this? This was which link in the show notes?
This was the third one, I believe. Yeah.
Make sure I'm opening the right one.
Yeah.
It's I'm twisted, I guess, torn. I like the idea, but I don't think that it says much for privacy. Because
Okay.
people should be able to say what they want to say, and they should be able to say it anonymously too. You know what I mean?
Okay. Yeah. Well,
I think that should go for anybody.
well, I agree with that. I'm just talking about more from the angle of, okay, these politicians are pro crypto. Do you really think it's beneficial to voters and people following politics to know necessarily who is pro crypto and who is not, and really doesn't matter in terms of the overall political point of view of the candidates? I mean, if somebody's pro crypto, but you disagree with them on everything else, you're gonna vote for them just because they like Bitcoin.
Right. I get what you mean, but that's why I'm saying I'm torn because people should be able to say what they want, but
Right.
they should. Google. I hate Google. Pops up, opens up my phone every time the word crypto gets mentioned. But it's when it's a politician and somebody that you're going to vote for, it's beneficial. There's no doubt about that. To know what they are actually about and what they support, which is. I would prefer to look at somebody's actions than what they're going to talk about when it comes to politics. I want to know their voting records, their things like
Gotcha.
that. You know,
Yeah, gotcha.
that will show you more than what they're going to just come out and say. You know what I mean?
No, I agree. I totally agree. Yeah, so you can say you're pro crypto, but if you vote against five pieces of pro crypto legislation, it doesn't really matter what you say. You're right. Yeah.
Exactly, because then you're not pro crypto.
Yeah.
It's like the whole. Okay, I'm going to slightly go political here. It's a whole abortion debate. Republicans have had 40 some years to do something about it. Not one of them did anything about it.
Yeah.
Enough said.
So yeah, yeah, and there were various reasons for that, but I get what you're saying. Yeah.
I mean, they had opportunities that they were in the majority. They could have done something. They didn't. So
Yeah. And the interesting thing about this, though, is it's not really a partisan issue, whereas abortion really was and is.
right.
But you find pro crypto Democrats, you find pro crypto Republicans, and then of course you find people who are anti crypto on both sides of the aisle. So it's not really a partisan issue. But it is an important issue for anyone that is interested in crypto. You might be interested in knowing which politicians are pro and which ones are not.
Yeah. I do agree with politicians. They do need to have a scorecard or whatever you would like to call it. Um, I think there's a Republican organization that does scorecards too, ain't it?
Yeah, the League of Women Voters does it. I think there's probably everybody does one. They're more advocacy groups, and so if you're a conservative leaning advocacy group, you have a scorecard for politicians that are pro gun rights or whatever other conservative policies are. You'll score according to that measurement. Libertarians have one regarding freedom issues, and so yeah, everybody's got their own scorecard, and I think those can be helpful, but a lot of times they also cause a lot of division. Because I mean, eh, you can be pro this and pro that and pro that all day long, um, but for me, I don't I don't vote based on whether you're conservative or liberal or you meet these three pet criteria. Uh, my my views on politicians and their value really is much more nuanced. It's not just about three or four or a lot of times just one policy issue that some people are like one issue voters. You got to be pro this or against that, and I'm not going to vote for you. And no, I'm not that way at all.
On the flip side, you got the party people. They
Right.
stick with that party now. Straight vote down.
No matter what.
Yeah. It's like
Right.
no.
Yeah. So sometimes those kind of scorecards can be divisive because if I'm a conservative and I'm voting for you, I'm looking for people to vote for who fit all of the conservative criteria. Maybe I'm not really evaluating things very well. I'm just looking at the scorecard and going, "Yep, he's conservative. Vote for him." Am I really thinking about what the implications of all of that is?
I've noticed the last probably 5 or 6 election cycles that all of the commercials they do very rarely do you see a commercial that comes out and says this is why you should vote for me. It's always about why you should not vote for that dude.
Yeah, yeah, typically, right.
And it's all negative. And it's like you got to give people something to believe in, not just tell them what they shouldn't believe in, but give them
Right.
something to believe in, something to go for.
And maybe that's the idea behind the pro crypto thing. Because if you're looking for candidates who are pro crypto, maybe that's a good starting point for you.
Right.
Yeah, these guys are pro crypto. Let's see what else they believe. Yeah, and so maybe it can be helpful that way. Yeah. All right. So the next thing on the list, this one's really interesting. South Korea issued an arrest warrant for Do Kwon. He's the co-founder, one of the founders of Terra Luna, whose native cryptocurrency and algorithmic stablecoin Terra USD crashed earlier this year. And a lot of people are saying that was a catalyst for the crypto bear market kicking in, or at least one of the catalysts. And so South Korea now has issued an arrest warrant for this guy who they thought was in Singapore, but evidently he's not. So now they're asking if he's on the run. And he tweeted,
Wow.
actually, no, I'm not on the run.
That's nuts.
Yeah, so my question now,
Why are they after him though?
well, they did an investigation, and South Korea is the only country that I'm aware of who has made this determination yet. But they are after him for some kind of fraud. Evidently, they believe that his cryptocurrency was used to defraud investors. And that came about because some investors in South Korea reported him when they lost a lot of money. And so South Korea did an investigation. They determined that it was all about fraud, and now they're out to get him.
Wow. I think part fraud aside, I think there's a lot of things that governments are afraid of when it comes to crypto because it calls into question their authority.
Yeah. Well, I do agree. There are countries, and the U.S. I believe is one of them, where there are concerns about cryptocurrency, not just in terms of their safety, investor safety concerns, but also for manipulating um, other financial markets, the stock market, uh, fiat currency values, and that kind of thing. And whether those concerns are legitimate or not, that is there. There is a fear among regulators and government um, uh, people in the government regarding cryptocurrencies.
True. Very
Yeah.
true.
So this could be something related to that. Maybe the South Koreans are a little bit concerned about some of that. But they did their investigation, determined that he's a fraudster, and now they're out to get him. And the Singapore government, the police in Singapore was going to cooperate with South Koreans, but they went looking for him and they couldn't find him.
Wow.
So now they think he fled the country. Who knows where Do Kwon is? Call this number 1-800 Do Kwon.
That's awesome.
But the
So
big news, the big news from last week is the U.S. Treasury released a report recommending that the U.S. begin development on a central bank digital currency, a CBDC, just in case it's determined to be in the national interest. And I find that to be interesting. It's a pretty long report. They go into a framework for the digital currency, how it should be built, what kind of features it should have, and all of that kind of thing. And I just think this is interesting. Everybody's talking about this new framework. Some people like it. Some people don't. It's very some people in crypto are very critical about it because it doesn't go into a lot of detail. But it's the first proposal, so I didn't really expect it to go into full detail. It's just a proposal for creating a framework for a CBDC, and whether or not that the Fed actually adopts that or anyone in the government actually takes it on, that's another question. What is your take on it?
I don't think it's a very good idea at all. No, 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 no. If there is, it's not a good idea to let the government be able control to just turn your money off when they want to.
Yeah. Oh, I totally agree with that. Yeah.
That is not. Best thing we could do is end the Fed because, well, for one, they're not a government organization.
Very true. Very true. Yeah. I have mixed feelings about it. I'm not so much opposed to a CBDC as I am concerned with its potential abuse. There are lots of different ways a CBDC can be used against consumers. For one, holy crap, that's a huge mug. Gee, that's bigger than your head, man.
It used to be my coffee cup when I was driving a truck.
Oh my goodness, that's huge.
My doctor told me I should reduce my caffeine intake to 2 cups of coffee a day. So that's what I did.
There you go. You just got a bigger cup. Oh,
That's right.
awesome. I love it. I love it.
Holds a
No,
full
but
cup.
yeah, back to the CBDC. I just think there are privacy concerns. Obviously, everybody's concerned about privacy. Like you said, the ability for the government to just uh, click a switch and all of a sudden you're cut off from the currency. Um, that's a huge concern. Could be a civil rights concern. I can see all kinds of potential litigation issues surrounding that. Um, and like you said, if it's issued by the Fed, which of course it would be by definition a CBDC, um, the Fed is not a government entity. It would be controlled by a small group of um, private citizens,
Mhm.
which which is one of the problems with the current fiat currency.
In my opinion, it's the biggest problem.
Yeah, and I agree with a lot of the concerns that libertarians and others have with the Fed and its monetary policy, tinkering with interest rates, tinkering with the value of the dollar. For one thing, it's inflationary, and who does inflation benefit? It benefits those who control the currency.
Yep, 100%. And that's the
Yeah.
problem.
Yeah. So this is big news. This is big news. I'm looking forward to following this particular news about the CBDC, whether or not the U.S. adopts one. If so, how do they adopt it? What do they do? What kind of features do they build in? And particularly, there's some difference between a wholesale CBDC and a retail CBDC. And I'd be very curious to know whether the Fed goes down the road of wholesale or retail or both.
Okay, you're gonna have to
It'd be
explain that one to me.
very interesting. So,
What's
a
the difference
wholesale,
between wholesale and retail?
yeah, well, a retail CBDC would be a currency that is issued to the general public, so anyone can get their hands on it.
Okay,
You, me, everybody, right?
right.
A wholesale CBDC would be issued only to financial institutions to back up their reserves. And so when you have a bank, you're insured by the FDIC, correct?
Right.
Up to a certain amount. So if you have, say, $1 million reserve in your small little bonehead bank, then And you can have a CBDC that represents that $1 million issued to you by the Fed, and that would be a wholesale CBDC.
Cool.
And so there'd be all kinds of benefits for that to banks that retail consumers and currency holders would not benefit from. It would also allow banks to issue loans on that and develop other digital currency products.
That is cool.
Yeah. So my thinking is considering the nature of the Fed and the structure of the Fed, I believe they would put a huge amount of importance on a wholesale CBDC. If they had a retail version of it, they would probably prefer the wholesale version of it.
Okay.
My thinking.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
Although I am
confused. I do find it interesting, and whether or not the Fed will ever go down that route, I believe they will, because other nations are way ahead of them on this, and I think the CBDCs are the future. My biggest concern is whether or not they will be mandatory. And according to the U.S. Treasury, they recommend not making them mandatory. Another concern I have is whether or not other cryptocurrencies, private cryptocurrencies, would be banned. And the U.S. Treasury recommends also that they not be banned, that consumers actually have a choice between a CBDC, central bank issued currency, and other cryptocurrencies, which I would totally support. I totally believe in consumer choice. And so if they do have a CBDC, for instance, you should not be required to get it, and you should have a choice to use it or not use it.
So they could pick and choose winners.
They could if they made it mandatory and they put stipulations on its use that favored certain types of people, certain types of businesses, and that kind of thing, then yeah, they could choose winners. And so there are many dangers that they have yet to explore, and how one is issued. This is just the very beginning.
So they could still do their great reset.
Yeah, well, yeah, that's another thing entirely. That's an international type thing, which could certainly play into it. No doubt about it. So yeah, awesome.
I just don't. I hope they don't do something like that where they could just say, "Oh well, you know, we're going to choose Ethereum over, and everything else is going to be dead." And,
Yeah.
there's a lot of stuff out there that I like Hive.
Yeah, I don't think they would do that, and I think there'd be a huge backlash if they did. I think probably what would be more likely would be organizing a central bank digital currency in such a way that companies and non-bank institutions could use it and deploy it on their blockchains. For instance, Ripple would be a good candidate for using a CBDC on its RippleNet. They're already pro CBDC as well, so they've got initiatives in place for developing CBDCs. And so, that's just one thing. I could also see certain, blockchain companies developing solely on the basis of distributing a CBDC or developing financial products around one. So I think there would be a whole ecosystem of non-bank institutions getting in to using CBDCs and developing products for them.
Cool.
Yeah.
Be interesting.
Yeah. So, anyways, there's that. The centralized monetary potential of a central currency almost falls in line with what we're talking about today. Decentralization, what it is, why it's important.
Good segue.
But
But
yeah,
like I
like we
said,
said
like
in
we
the
said in
intro,
the
we were
intro,
going
we
to
were going to
talk
talk
about
about
Hive and
Hive
give
and
our
give our
platform
platform
review,
review,
but
but
we're
we're
going
going
to
to
put
put that
that
off
off for
for
another
another
week.
week.
Keep you on your
Keep you
edge
on
of
your
your
edge of
seat.
your seat.
But
But the
we should
we should
probably talk
probably
about
talk about what
what is
what
meant
is
by
meant by
decentralization, what needs
decentralization,
to be
what needs to be
decentralized,
decentralized,
and why
and
it's
why it's
important.
important.
Um,
Um,
so
so
let's start it
let's
this
start it
way.
this way.
What is
What is decentralization to
decentralization
you, Alan?
There are different ways of defining decentralization. What I tend to think about is, okay, there's decentralization in technology. That's
right?
one thing. And then there's decentralization in the human aspect of that. So, for instance, the internet started out decentralized, and you can argue it's still decentralized in its basic architecture. All right, so you've got nodes all over the world that serve as entry points to the internet. In that sense, it's decentralized. In another sense, it's not so decentralized. So you have these huge technology companies like Facebook, Google, Apple, Microsoft, Amazon that that control a large chunk of internet traffic and commerce. And so, they are very powerful. For instance, good 80% of the North American population spends a considerable amount of time on Facebook. So Facebook has become this huge behemoth of a tech company that controls a lot of internet traffic and attracts a lot of internet traffic. And what do they do with that? Well, they find ways to keep people on their platform more and more and more so that they can build revenue from advertising. Um, and so that's their business model. And
I
essentially,
think
what you have is this collage of walled gardens.
he says
He says,
just
just
this
this
morning
morning
I
I
saw
saw
a
a
news
news
story
story
about
about
Google is
Google is
changing
changing
something
something
in the
in the
Chrome
Chrome
browser
browser
in their
in their
in their
in their
API,
API,
and what
and what
it's going to
it's
do
going
is
to do is
basically
basically
cut
cut
out
out
all the
all of the
ad
ad
block
block
software
software
extensions
extensions and
out there,
out there,
and
and
there's not going to
there's
be
not going
any
to be
way
any way
to block
to block
ads
ads
on
on
Chrome
Chrome
anymore.
anymore.
And
And it's
there's a
there's a
lot of
lot of
developers that are
developers that
ticked
are
off
ticked
about
off
it
about it
because
because
the
the
Chrome
Chrome
browser
browser
is like
is like
70 or
70 or
80%
80%
share of the
share of the
browser
browser
market.
market.
Right.
And
So,
so,
people are just
people
going
are
to get
just going to
used
get
to
used
seeing
to
more
seeing more
ads
ads
because
because
they're not going
they're
to
not going to
try to
try to
figure out
out
how to
how to
get
get
a
a new
new
Unless
extension
unless they switch
to block it.
browsers.
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah,
The
unless they
Brave,
switch browsers. Yeah.
Brave will
Brave
block
will
it,
block it
and
and
Firefox won't be
Firefox
able
will
to
be
block
able to
them.
block them.
But
But
Brave is
Brave
still
is still
Chrome.
Chrome.
It's
It's
based on
based on
Chromium.
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 But yeah, it's based
And
on Chrome. Yeah, but I think
this
I think you'd still have I think you'd still have Brave and other browsers that
oh
could
yeah,
get around that.
yeah, but
Yeah,
it's
based
not
on their
anywhere
Anywhere
yeah.
near
share
the
that
share that
Chrome's got.
Chrome's got.
And
And
No, but I think that could drive more. It could drive more share too. More people might adopt Brave
yeah,
if they
yeah,
can do that. If they can use Brave and other browsers to block ads, there are other browsers out there that if they don't block ads now, they could start blocking ads, to
yeah.
attract other users. You've got
I
Opera, you've got Safari.
use
I use
Firefox and
Firefox and
Brave,
Brave. switch back and forth.
And
And
there
there
are
are
some
some
ads
ads that
that
Firefox won't block,
but
but Brave will block
everything.
everything. And I
Yeah,
love it.
It is
It
so
is.
I love Brave. I use Brave exclusively.
I use
use it
Yeah.
exclusively on my phone. Firefox.
And I like it because as a writer, as someone who spends a lot of time doing research online and visiting a lot of websites, blocking ads is important because they slow me down, in my research and so I don't have to look. I can block them and keep on going.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
Anyways, back to where you were. Sorry about the tangent.
Yeah, yeah, no problem. Interjection is cool.
My ADD can totally derail things. So it's one of those things.
Yeah, so I'd be interested to know what your take is on decentralization. How do you define it?
When I first started getting into doing this a couple years ago, I was of the mindset
that
that decentralization was like the metaverse, where it's the stuff online needs, the servers and your sites that you go to should be decentralized.
But
But now I've grown to where I think that it's the user that should be decentralized more than the sites online that you're going to, or a combination of the two. Um, when I'm thinking of the user being decentralized, I'm thinking for simplicity's sake, the user should have like one online identity, and that they can then log into anything. You know what I mean? It's
Gotcha. Sort of Web3. Then you're talking about sort of a Web3 vision.
yeah. That's to me. That's what decentralization is. You shouldn't have all your if you're talking like files and things like that. I like the IPFS um, idea where it's spread out everywhere and
Hmm.
not just on one central place.
Um,
Um,
if
if it's social media, I like Hive where you can post once and it goes literally everywhere.
Yep.
It's I noticed this back when I was doing podcasting several years ago. If you wanted your stuff to get everywhere, all the social media, you had to log into Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and whatever else, MySpace, whatever else was out there, and post individually. Now there's apps that nowadays that you could use, like if this and that will do it for you.
Right.
That even then, that's a convoluted way because there are still some things that you have to log into to keep going.
Sure. Sure.
Like for Anchor, the podcast audio, I upload the video and it gets posted to Spotify. The video does, and then the audio gets disseminated through all the other podcast directories.
Gotcha.
And I also upload to YouTube, and I'm supposed to have it set up so that you can it'll auto post over to Rumble from YouTube, but that's not happening. So I've been having to go in to Rumble and upload to it too. So now I'm uploading to three places, and it's annoying, but it should be able to. You just throw it up one, and it goes everywhere. Um, like Speak Network is doing ceramic accounts, so that you have one account, and you would log into it, and then you could also log into Hive, and log it. cross posts over to ETH, Theta, whatever they hook up to it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, right.
Which would
Yeah, so what I hear you saying is, for you, decentralization is more about being able to access different apps or different websites using a single identity that connects you to the entire internet as Uncle Bonehead. So
right.
you want to go to Google, you can sign in as Uncle Bonehead. You want to go to Facebook, you can sign in as Uncle Bonehead using your online identity.
Yep.
Um, so, so could you have multiple identities?
Sure.
So if I wanted to sign in as Alan Taylor today and Ding Dong tomorrow, I could sign in as whatever alternate personality I want to use that day.
Multiple personalities go hand in hand with decentralization. but, but
Yeah, I kind of like that idea.
it's I don't know. In a way, it's possible now, but to handle like I've got my Ryan Ridenhour identity. I've got my Uncle Bonehead identity, and then you know Joe Blow Rockstar identity. And to do that, each one of those I've got to manage individual. Say I've got 10 social media sites on each one. I'd have to run 30 social media logins. Now,
Yeah,
if I've got just three identities, and those three identities can do each of those 10, I've only got three that I got to manage. You know what I mean?
right. Yeah,
Instead of 30.
right. Yeah, I mean, you're kind of talking about an OAuth type thing, but more secure. OAuth allows you to sign into multiple different apps using something like Facebook as your login, or you know, um, it's an identity identifier that allows you to log in using a website address or a social media account, something along those lines. But with Web three, yeah, with Web three, you can do that with a wallet. So, for instance, you could have your MetaMask uh, identity or MetaMask wallet. You could have, like I have like 20 different accounts on MetaMask. Each one of them could be a separate identity.
Right.
And so I could sign into any website that is, that I can connect my wallet to and sign in using that particular identity.
That's exactly what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
But that should be able to put that on hardware and hold that in my hand. I should have those identities to go with me, not just be saved on a device somewhere. You know what I mean?
Gotcha. So I could have like, so you could have like a Ledger or a Trezor hard wallet. You just stick it in your USB port. Say I want to log into OpenSea. Bam, you log into OpenSea using that identity. And you want to go to Hive or you want to go to some other website or platform, and you want to sign in. You just pull that identification up from your hard wallet. It might be an NFT. It might be some other way that allows you to, maybe it's a key, a certain key code or whatever, but you just input it and log in.
Right. I could
Yeah,
see like a kiosk somewhere. Like you go hang out at a coffee shop or whatever, and they've got a little kiosk there, and you want to log in and post something. Hey, I'm drinking coffee at such and such place.
you
you
can
can just
plug in
your
wallet,
wallet,
your,
your
you
the,
know,
you know,
and
and log in.
It's,
Hmm.
Say,
hey, I'm
hey,
here.
I'm here.
Anybody wants to
Anybody
come
wants
and
to come and
chat?
chat?
Come
Come
chat,
chat,
and
and then pull it out,
and your
and your
stuff is
stuff
right
is
there in
right
your
there in your
hand still,
hand still,
and it's
and
not
it's not
And those,
on
yeah,
computer
that can be
that could be
stolen.
stolen.
and those wallets could take on any number of different, I guess, sizes and shapes. I mean, you could have a USB, like a USB stick. You could have like a credit card type wallet where you just stick it in a slot. Uh, so it could look like any number of different items that we're currently familiar with. But the bottom line is it needs to be secure. It needs to be a way that you can use. Any individual can use it and feel secure that their identity will not be stolen.
Right.
And so the device must be secure, but also uh, the connecting point wherever you're connecting that to, whether it's your laptop, your smartphone, a public kiosk, a website, they must also be secure.
Right.
And
It's
uh, yeah, so you need privacy, you need security. You know, you got to be secure in knowing that your information can't be used by another individual.
right.
Um, and so there's access to that. Number one, that's security, and number two, the ability to use it and pretend to be you.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's just
That's
that's
to me
to
that's the
me that's
decentralization. The
decentralization. The
individual.
individual.
That's why I
That's
say
why I
it's
say
the
it's the
individual that should
individual
be
that should be
decentralized
decentralized
because
because you
you should
should
be
be
able
able
to
to
hold
hold
that
that
in
in
your
your
hand,
hand
and
and it not be Wi-Fi.
It's got to
It's got to
be
be
a
the
hard
hard
plug
plug
because
because once you
pull
pull
it
it
out of
out of
that
that
USB,
USB,
it can't be
it can't be
accessed,
accessed,
and it's in
and
your
it's in your
possession
Yeah.
and your
possession and your
control
control
at all
at all
times.
times.
Yeah.
Not
No, I got
Not
you.
on a phone
where
where
a
a
Bluetooth can
Bluetooth can
connect to it.
connect to it.
It's that's no,
That's
Yeah.
no.
it's
That's
Yeah, that I think that's a great example of how decentralization can be used. In a way, we have that in the real world. Before the internet, you know, if you wanted to go someplace and make a purchase, you carried cash in your wallet, or might have had a credit card, but you had a way to prove you are who you are, and no other individual could walk in and say they were you and be able to prove it unless they had, uh, the right documents.
right.
Yeah, and it was decentralized. That's basically what it was. I mean, it's a decentralized society.
it's
Um, and we still sort of have that in the real world, in the physical world, but we're losing that because everything is increasingly more digital.
yep.
Yep.
Unfortunately,
Unfortunately,
I
I
mean,
mean,
people
people
actually
actually
should
should
go
go
outside
outside
once
once
in
in
a
a
while
while
and
and
touch
touch
grass.
grass.
But
Touch it, not smoke it, right?
right. Well, if
Well,
you're into
if you're into
that, I
that,
mean,
I mean,
at
you
least
know,
at least you're
at least
touching
you're
something
touching something
tangible. It's
tangible.
not
It's not.
Yeah,
on a
right.
screen.
No, I agree. I mean, I think there are certainly benefits to a digital connected world. Um, we have but for any benefit, I always say for every upside there's a downside. Okay, so yeah, you have a connected world, you have a digital world. It certainly helped me. I've been able to make a living online for 16 years, right? So I've
Nice.
run a business, and I've been able to do that. The internet has afforded me a way to make a living. So there are benefits to that, but then you also have some drawbacks to that. So, for one thing, you know, I have these because of the internet. Blue light, blue light has affected my eyes, and so I developed eye strain, and now I need reading glasses. So there are drawbacks, but there are benefits, and I think what I think what we're looking at today is the internet has grown into such a massive uh, uh, tool resource for all of us, and it's only going to get better. The whole world's not on the internet yet, but a lot of people are. You still have third world countries where the majority of the people are not online.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that's going to change over time. More and more people will have access to the internet, and as they do, we'll have more opportunities, but we'll also have bigger threats.
Yes.
And so now is the right time to be thinking about digital identities and online security and decentralization, so that no one government, no one entity, or no group of oligarchs can control this resource we have, that's an international resource, a digitally connected resource that all of us can benefit from. We don't want uh, you know five companies controlling everything that happens on the internet.
Right.
Right.
And
And otherwise, that's what we got now with the media.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean,
The
obviously,
media companies that control 90% of the what you watch and broadcast and stream, and that's part of that
yeah,
er,
that
that
is
is
the
the
reason,
reason, at least in my mind, of why
podcasting
podcasting
and
and
YouTube
YouTube
independent
independent
media
media
has
has
gotten
gotten
so
so
huge
huge
over the
over the
last
last
5, 10
5, 10
years.
years.
yeah,
It's
It's
exploded
exploded
because
because
it's
it's
not
not
controlled
controlled
by
by 7
corporate
corporate
entities.
entities.
yeah. That's a good point, because there is another benefit to decentralization that we didn't touch on, and that is the ability of small creators, individuals like you and me, to connect to the internet, um, create something, and monetize it in a way that doesn't involve using a huge monolithic organization like Facebook or Google. Up until now, Web 2 monetization um, it meant using these tools like Facebook and Google, and necessarily in order to monetize something that we create. Even PayPal. I've run my business on the internet for 16 years, but for much of that time, I needed a PayPal account, and I still have a PayPal account, and I still do a lot of business through it, but it's no longer my primary way of collecting revenue. I have other ways. I have ACH, which is direct to my bank, and now I have my crypto wallets. And so if I have a client that wants to pay in crypto, I can take crypto payments direct to my wallet. All I gotta do is give them my public wallet address, and so I have more opportunities and expanded opportunities for collecting payments and billing my clients. And so Web3 is and decentralization is just another way for small creators to have more power and control over the way they conduct their business.
Yep.
Yep.
By the
By the
way,
way,
we have
we have
gotten
gotten
two
2
BTC
BTC
donations
donations
so
so
far.
far.
I don't know
I don't know
who
who
they
they
came
came,
from,
Awesome.
but
but
thank you.
thank you.
Thank you
Thank you
very
very
much.
much.
It's kind of
It's
cool.
kind of cool.
It
Yeah,
was,
thank you for thank you for the donations, guys. Yeah, send
yeah,
more,
it's only
It's
like
only like
please. No.
10 cents a piece, but it's
that's
cool.
cool.
Yeah, no, that's cool. That is cool.
Which
Another thing we
another
could
thing we
talk
could
about
talk about
is
is the value for value
thing
thing
that
that
Brian of
Brian of
London
London
has
has
created
created
over on
over on
Hive.
Hive.
It's a
It's
way
a
for
way for
people
people
to
to
stream
stream
sats
sats
to
to
a
a
podcaster
podcaster
on
on
Hive,
Hive,
and it
and it
converts
converts
BTC
BTC
or
or
whatever
whatever
to
to
Hive
Hive
on the
on the
fly.
Oh, cool,
So we'll
cool.
talk about
about
that
that
eventually,
eventually too,
which is
which is
it's a very
it's a
cool
very
thing.
cool thing.
Yeah, and I think a lot more of those types of tools are going to be coming up in the future. Those kind of automatic conversions, and I certainly support that. And as the crypto space grows, I think we'll see a lot more opportunities in that way.
Yep.
Yep.
Well,
We
we
should
should
probably
probably
wrap
wrap
this
this up.
up.
We've been going.
Can't see around my mic stand.
A little over an hour, about an hour, 2 minutes, or something like that. I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it
It
says
Yeah.
says
we've
we've
been
been
recording
recording
for
for
50
50
minutes.
minutes.
So
So
it's about
it's
normal
about normal
for what they're
for what they're
turning out
turning
to
out
be.
to be.
Yeah. Well, once again, just as a sort of way to wrap it up, I think we both hit upon a key characteristic of decentralization, and that is the uh, empowerment of individuals uh, to uh, to do business online, to engage with customers, clients, fans, and or just each other. If you're not a creator, just the ability to have more power and control over your online identity and the way that you use digital assets.
Right.
Totally.
Totally.
To me,
To me,
decentralization is
decentralization
all
is
about
all
the
about the
individual.
individual.
It's
It's
not
not
anything. I
anything. I
can't
can't
actually,
actually,
to
to
me,
me,
my
my
definition,
definition,
it
it
doesn't.
doesn't,
It
it
can't
can't
be about
be about
anything
anything
other
other
than the
than the
individual.
individual.
Because
Because
how's the
how's
word?
the word?
It needs
It
to
needs to
bring
bring
more
more
of
of
the
the
real
real
life
life
stuff
stuff
into
into
the
the
online
online
digital.
digital world.
Somewhere
Somewhere
along the
along the
lines with
lines
Web
with Web
two,
2,
we let
we let
it
it
take
take
control,
control,
and
and
the
the
people,
people,
individuals,
individuals,
need
need
to
to
take the
take the
control.
control.
I agree. I totally agree. If the technology is the controlling factor, then the technology rules. And I think this is a valid criticism of blockchain technology, or the idea that code is law, right? Certainly, code is necessary, and code certainly sets the rules of engagement for all of us. And for that, we can appreciate it. But the code should serve the individual, not the other way around.
Right.
Right.
It's like
It's like
I
I
always
always
hear.
hear,
You've
you've
always
always
heard
heard
somebody
somebody
say,
say,
"Oh, there
"Oh,
was a
there was a
glitch in the
glitch in the
computer,"
computer,"
or
or
Yeah.
there's.
there's.
I had
I
this
had this
explained to me
explained to
by
me
a
by a
long,
long,
lifelong
lifelong
programmer.
programmer.
There's no
There is
such
no
thing
such
as a
thing as a
glitch.
glitch.
Computers only
Computers only
do
do
what they're
what they're
told to
told
do.
to do.
Exactly.
If the code was faulty,
it was the
it was the
programmer's fault.
programmer's fault.
That's not a
That's not a
glitch. That's a
glitch. That's a
mistake.
mistake.
And if
True.
something
If something
happens
happens
and
and
you
you
get
get
a
a
different
different
result
result
than
than
what
what
you
you
expected,
expected,
it's
it's
either a
either a
mistake
mistake
or it was an
or it was an
intended
intended
result.
result.
Yeah.
When it
When
comes
it,
to
There's a
music.
problem. There's a problem in the code. Yeah.
yep.
And I appreciate that insight. We got to remember that the technology must serve the man, and I don't mean that in a sexist sense. The man being man or woman, mankind.
Yeah.
Uh, the individual. The technology should serve humanity. Humanity should not serve the technology. And I think what we've got now with Web 2 is we have allowed ourselves to be put in the subservient position to technology and the big tech companies that created that technology. And it's done good things. Google uh, is a great search engine.
They
You want to
used to be
find
called
something,
their slogan used to be "Don't be evil." Well,
don't be evil. But if you don't,
but
if you want to find something on the internet, Google's a great tool.
oh yeah,
But that does that doesn't mean that everything they do is good, and that doesn't mean that everything they do is beneficial to all of us. And so I think we really need to think about how we want the next iteration of the web to look.
Yep. Exactly.
So,
And I hope it's decentralized.
me too.
It's got to be, or it's not. If it's not, I'm just going to turn it off. I'll be out.
That's an option. That's an option. Absolutely. That's an option. Anyways, hey, man, I've had fun, as always, having this chit chat with my Uncle Bonehead. My friend, Uncle Bonehead. He's not my uncle. He's just my friend. Who is an uncle?
I'm an uncle like, what, 19 or 20 times over, I think.
Oh, wow. Wow.
Got 17 nieces.
Wow.
One nephew and two great nephews, and I have no clue how many great nieces.
You could start a baseball team and have reserves.
Oh yeah.
Nice.
Email the podcast and podcast email the podcast at defluence.online. There we go. Join our Discord, defluence.online/Discord. Follow us on Twitch. Well, it's me on Twitch now. Twitter. Not anywhere else other than that, other than Hive.
Yeah.
I've got a Facebook.
Yeah.
I don't like Facebook.
Follow us. Yeah. Follow us on Twitter. Follow us on Hive. Follow us. Check out our website. And don't forget about cryptocracy.substack.com. I talk about it, defluence. I talk about decentralization. Talk about all the concepts that we talk about here on the show. And so our next episode will hit tomorrow, right?
Yep. Episode number 2, where we pull out the whiteboard.
Yeah, the whiteboard. You betcha. So episode 2 hits tomorrow. The one we just recorded, episode 3, will come next Wednesday, the Wednesday after tomorrow. And on our next episode, next Tuesday, we'll be talking about Hive.
Yep. We'll catch you guys again next time. Always be good. Be safe. Never stick a finger where you wouldn't stick your fingers. I don't know why I went with that one. Because I used to do that one all the time, but I don't know why I threw it in there. I gotta play the outro.
That's a good place to close.
Where's the outro? I've got the outro set up in here somewhere. Outro. There we go.